Hello, I'm Ed Fuquay, Young Adult Librarian Extraordinaire here at Woonsocket Harris Public Library.
And I'm Michaela, human being at Woonsocket Harris Public Library.
Yes, we're here for another episode of Book Talking.
Yes.
Now, last time we talked about vampires, we discussed how vampires make great anti-heroes.
Oh yes, fabulous anti-heroes.
That led to a big discussion of what is an anti-hero and who's our favorite anti-hero. So we've got it all across like literature and
I even went
movies.
Cartoons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we talk about how to define an anti-hero. An anti-hero is someone, to be a hero of any sort, you have to do good, or at least try to do good. So people who are out and out evil, like Al Pacino's character from Scarface, and Tony Montana is a villainous protagonist. We see the story through his eyes, but he never tries to do anything good or right the entire movie.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So that's not an anti-hero.
No. That would be, he's more of a sympathetic villain who happens to be a main character.
Exactly, sympathetic villain. You can and also characters can shift from one thing to another. And some of the characters we're discussing have a long history behind them, and they've been handled by different writers, so they're coached very differently. So, you want to start with your list, or do you have more to say?
Yeah, why don't we start with the ones we have in common?
Okay.
Because it was funny when
Yes.
we were reading our lists to each other, we had two anti-heroes in common.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest ones, one of the textbook definitions of anti-heroes I think that we should have to deal with is Catwoman from
Yeah.
the DC universe.
Definitely.
I mean, that's somebody who does bad, but also does good, so.
Yes, every version of Catwoman has had this. She has a heart of gold. She
Yeah.
will help out orphans. In almost every version of her backstory, she grew up on the street. She has a
Yeah.
rough background. In some versions of them, she was actually a prostitute for a while.
Yep.
So she has this like tragic backstory to her, and she has these enormous skills that she mostly uses for helping herself, but she also never hesitates to help other people.
Oh, absolutely. She has her own agenda, but she also follows her own moral compass. It doesn't
Yeah.
always lead her to the best choices, but she tries to do good when she can.
Yeah, that's an important thing. Someone who in some ways is an outright villain, so long as they have a moral compass, they can
Yeah.
still qualify as an anti-hero. The villain that has a code of honor is one of the
Yeah.
things that I really like.
And she definitely has a code of honor.
Yeah.
She,
There's a lot of things she will not do. She doesn't, that she doesn't murder people.
Yeah. Big thing right
Yeah,
there.
she
Does
never
not
kills.
She doesn't really, unless she is currently being faced with another villain trying to cause harm. She also doesn't cause harm. She actively avoids it.
If she's going after someone for whatever reason, she'll never take a straight path. She'll always approach, she'll rob them, she'll ruin them financially, embarrass them publicly.
Yeah.
She'll do almost anything except direct confrontation, punching them in the face. It's just not her style.
Yeah. No. Destroy them emotionally, not physically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Catwoman definitely qualifies as an anti-hero. She's very associated with Batman. They came close to getting married, but it didn't quite happen. So now they have sort of an open, non-monogamous relationship.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. Like, she's one of the few anti-heroes. Well, occasionally the anti-hero will team up with whatever the story's hero is, if there is such a hero in whatever story we're discussing.
Yeah.
And she, I think more so than actually, she's the only one who really teams up with Batman outside of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Harley Quinn eventually came around to working with Batman on a regular basis, but for a long time he just didn't like her.
Yeah.
And even after she had more or less reformed, in her own mind she had reformed, but to Batman she was still a crook.
Oh yeah.
And he's only gradually getting around that.
Well, anyone who is that close to the Joker, I think you're always going to have that level of apprehension. Also, I have my Harley Quinn sweater on today.
Huzzah!
Yes, very good.
Excellent. Yeah, Harley Quinn is definitely a great character. Like Catwoman, she has a tragic backstory.
Yep.
She's also been written by several different writers in several different ways over the years. Almost any female character from Batman we could take.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Even Poison Ivy, who also comes from a very tragic backstory.
Yeah.
She still has her own moral compass and often teams up with Harley Quinn in several iterations to, do their own sort of vigilante crime fighting, following their own rules. I really like the new series that has come up.
The cartoon?
The Harley
that's
Quinn series.
fantastic,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness, it's wonderful. But yeah, no, even Poison Ivy in that, she's not a villain. She's an eco-terrorist.
Yeah, she said that to a reporter once and
Yes.
mistakenly called us supervillain. She says, I identify as eco-terrorist.
Yes.
So, have to be respectful.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Talia al Ghul, even Batman's other
Yeah.
love interest, even qualifies in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Although she's mostly entirely self-centered, she's not above doing good things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That whole universe is really, it's all about the gray area.
Yeah.
It's all about the gray area between what is good, what is bad, and how do
Yeah.
we walk this line.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to tilt into one or the other.
It is, because some of the lists of anti-heroes on the internet include Batman as an anti-hero. And I say no, because he has a very strong moral compass.
Yeah, for a vigilante, he's as close to a Boy Scout as you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't really waver from that very much.
No, even at the sacrifice of his own wants and needs, whereas
Yeah.
an anti-hero, honestly, they feel a little bit more typical human.
Yeah.
Where it's so easy to just fall into that, I'm going to make the best decision
Yeah.
for me instead of the best decision for, you know, what the law, aligning with what the law says.
Yeah. Well, in, I think it was Empire Strikes Back, when Luke is talking to Yoda and asks, is the dark side stronger? And Yoda says, no, but it's easier.
Yeah.
It's always easier to do the wrong thing. Doing the right thing is what's hard.
Yeah.
You know, people say, well, how come Batman doesn't just kill the Joker? And I get that from kids all
Yeah.
the time. And yeah, I understand the logic of that, just kill the Joker. But the problem is, what separates Batman from the Joker is he doesn't just kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when the Joker does terrible things like hurt poor little Dick Grayson.
Really awful things, yeah.
Really, really terrible things. But that's the thing, Batman is not the judge nor the jury.
Yeah.
And he never lets himself fall into that because
Yeah.
it would be so easy. All of his
It's a
problems
trap,
would
yeah.
effectively be over if
Mhm.
he did that one thing. But how does, by killing the Joker, but how does that make him better than the Joker?
Yeah, the moral compass that keeps him
Yeah,
going. That's what
exactly.
it does. Also, I think the public accepts him to a certain extent because he doesn't just walk around with his gloves covered in blood.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So,
But we were talking a little bit about that, but I think that's, you know, people, we identify so much more with anti-heroes than the straight cut black and white good guys because, you know, humans are complicated. We're
Yeah.
all about that gray area, and you know,
Yeah.
it's nice to see a story you identify with the character who
Exactly.
doesn't always do the right
it's
thing.
easier to identify with Batman than it is with Superman, let's say.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Superman is always above it all. Whereas Batman is just a normal person, really, in a
Yeah.
rubber bat suit. you know?
There's a struggle there, whereas Superman, it's just so easy for him to do the right thing. It's
Oh.
easier, at least.
It's easier, but at the same time, he also has to be constantly in this iron self-control.
Yeah.
You can never slip up for a minute. Batman slips up, it's not that big a deal. If Superman
Yeah.
slips up, it's going to be awful.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so Superman holds himself to that really rigid code of honor that makes him, the Blue Boy Scout and so
Yeah.
forth. But he has to. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. No, if he does, if he slips up, that's the end of that. That's the end of everything. Everything that he has fought so hard to protect and sacrificed so much to protect.
Exactly. It all goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in most Elseworld stories where that's happened, the world pretty much collapses after that.
Yeah. It's like, okay, every situation where I didn't do my job.
Yeah. It's hard to live in that kind of a universe.
Exactly.
All right, so that's Catwoman. Who
Yeah.
else do we have in common?
In common, we have one of personally my favorite anti-heroes of all time from the very popular Pirates of the Caribbean
Yep.
franchise is Captain Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow. He is a great character.
He's just so wonderful. He's a total scene stealer in every
Yeah,
single scene.
yeah.
First off, like you don't see him on the screen and get upset that there's a scene
No.
with Captain Jack Sparrow in it.
Although I will say that he needs strong people to play off of, because the last couple of pirate movies, he hasn't had really great actors.
Well, we don't speak of
I know.
the.
You don't have to, but you can tell the distinct difference between the first three movies and the later ones.
Oh, absolutely.
Because-
Well,
yeah.
also he's the bad guy who's
Yeah.
not the villain. He's the corrupt one, and you have these really strong moral characters
Yeah.
to just kind of show in comparison, just the extent of the craziness of the choices that he makes.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. But
Yeah, you need some characters need other characters to play off of. A long time ago, when Happy Days was the hottest show on television, they talked to
Yeah.
Henry Winkler about doing a Fonzie series, and he says, "No, you don't understand. Fonzie is only cool because he lives in the garage above Richie Cunningham."
Yeah.
You know, by himself, he's not cool. He's
No.
only cool in contrast to other characters.
He's just a guy walking around, just in a leather jacket,
Yeah, exactly.
just without those other characters.
Yeah, in Jack Sparrow's case, his motives are almost entirely selfish.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He's not a cruel or sadistic character, but he wants his bloody ship back.
Damn right. He wants his bloody ship back.
And then he
wants to
decides.
be-
Then he decides he wants
Yeah.
to be immortal.
Yeah.
So
it's
yeah.
all about self-preservation, power. He
Power.
definitely needs that
Yeah.
power. You can't call him Jack Sparrow. He's Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, and that costs him.
Yeah.
That pride. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He's very prideful, very selfish, very
Yeah.
power hungry, and yeah, no, he definitely looks out for number one.
Yeah. The people who were writing the first Pirates movie, they wanted to do something that would be unexpected, and so pirates generally attack places and rob things.
Yeah.
So in the first pirate movie, the evil pirates are trying to get back gold they had already stolen and return it.
Yes.
So the issue was about trying to return gold to where you stole it from.
I actually, I had never really thought about
Yeah,
that from
that
the,
was
the
where they
plot.
came up with the original idea from. Yeah, the reverse of the normal pirate tropes.
It's the
because-
anti-pirate movie.
Yeah. Well, there's in TV trope pages, there's one called Pirates Who Never Steal Anything.
Yes.
And pirates are really cool, but if you follow a pirate character around long enough, he's bound to shoot someone or, rob a ship.
Oh, there's this great program that I know because I have too many nieces and nephews called Jake and the Neverland Pirates.
Ah.
And they had a wonderful ad one day where it's all the pirates and they're holding up a banner and it just said, "Remember, real pirates don't take what doesn't belong to them." And yes, that was my
Yeah.
reaction.
At least with Captain Hook and Peter Pan, he has no one to rob.
Yeah,
He's on an
exactly.
island full of little kids. There's really not much you can do except sail around and be menacing.
Hey, he kidnaps a fairy. That's
Okay,
pretty
kidnaps
terrible.
Fairy, that's pretty terrible. Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, Captain Jack Sparrow. But the thing that makes him an anti-hero, because he does do all these like awful things.
Yeah.
If he needs something from somebody or decides that he cares about them, of course, because they help him along
Yeah,
the way,
yeah.
he will do whatever it takes within his power to protect his assets.
He does have a kind of a code of honor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He does have a very strange, but it's there, code of honor. That's
Yeah.
what makes him so. He's a compelling character.
One of the reasons the anti-heroes are so popular is that writers enjoy using them because audiences find them hard to predict.
Yeah.
So, and Jack Sparrow is like the essence of that chaotic unpredictability that a good rogue character can have.
Oh, absolutely. He's a tornado in human form.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Who else do you have in your list?
On my list, one of my personal favorites is from the very popular TV series Futurama. The character Bender, who is
Yeah.
there, that whole show is hilarious, but I would say he is one of the funniest characters on there. And I like the use of anti-heroes within, a comedic sort of,
Yeah.
just setting, because they can get away with doing so many more terrible things and it being
Yes.
more acceptable.
Yeah.
In his case, he is selfish, impulsive, he's a criminal, he loves violence.
Yes.
He loves violence. There's, any opportunity he has to blow smoke in your face or, hurt you, he'll take it. But he truly cares for his loved ones, and that's like the silver lining. But he'll still hurt them.
Oh
He'll
yeah.
still hurt them.
Yeah, still.
Short of death, he'll still
Yeah.
hurt them for his own gains. That's just one that I absolutely adore. But yeah, no, he is an anti-hero. When do you not root for him?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the first one on my list is John Constantine. He's been
Yeah.
in comic books, and there was a movie with Keanu Reeves, and he's been on TV recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's a magician from the DC universe.
Yeah.
He is a black magician who isn't afraid to summon demons and sacrifice animals and do pretty much whatever it takes to get the job done. What makes him heroic is that he does fight evil. He tries to use lesser evil to defeat greater evil. And he's a tragic character, so you sympathize with him in field forms. It's basically every friend he's ever had dies horribly, and it's usually Constantine's fault.
True.
Yeah, he first appeared in Swamp Thing. It was created by Alan Moore, and he was basically a wildly chaotic figure. When he showed up, you knew something awful was about to happen. Something was about to hit the fan. You just have him pop up in a single panel, and the readers go, "Oh no, Constantine's here."
Here he comes.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh yeah, oh great. Now, yeah, we're all gonna die. In his own series, we see things more towards his eyes. In his own series, it focuses mostly on all the friends that he's lost over the years, and there's a tragic exorcism that went wrong in his youth that still haunts him literally to this day. So he always tries to do what's right, but there's an awful lot of collateral damage. And that bothers him. He feels genuinely guilty, so we know he does have heroic qualities to him, but that never stops him from doing it again the next time the chips are down.
Yeah, oh absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just...
And anti-heroes are frequently self-destructive, and he also embodies that completely. There's a famous storyline in which he came down with lung cancer, and he came up with a bizarre way of not dying by selling his soul simultaneously to two demons who were equal in power, and neither could decide which one should drag his soul to hell, making him effectively immortal.
Okay, so it's kind of like the philosophical question: if you put two buckets of food, equal distance between on either side of a goat, the goat will starve to death because it doesn't know which one to go to.
That was the technique he used with the demons from hell, and they used that part of that plot for the Keanu Reeves movie. And at the end of the movie, after he's stopped himself from going to hell and dying, his friend who died turns out to not be dead at all, which is very un-Constantine. And then he pulls out a pack of cigarettes and throws them away and puts all that behind him. Whereas in the comic book, not only does his friend who helped him stay dead, the very last panel of the comic book is him lighting up another cigarette. Because John Constantine never learns.
It's because Hollywood always has to have a moral.
It has to have a happy ending.
It has to have a happy ending. Has to have this massive character change. No, some characters never change.
Yeah.
Some people are just stuck in their own cycles.
Yeah.
In the vein of somebody who comes in, kind of is trying to do the right thing, but their own issues are what's causing them to make these really bad decisions. Is another really good anti-hero in my opinion, which is Dexter Morgan from Dexter.
Okay, I'm not familiar with him except by reputation. So what is he like?
So his, to summarize, he is a serial killer who kills other serial killers. So that's his only victim source. He, things like people who murder children. He works in crime scene investigation, so that's how he figures out all of these murders, and then he goes and he takes care of it. He's also, he's got his own issues where, he's a bit of a psychopath. He really has issues with feeling human emotion, and he does have that drive, that need to murder, but he tries to funnel it into something positive. And he does try to help people. He's trying to get murderers off the street in his own twisted way. He's doing the right thing, and you root for him. You really do.
Does he ever just slip up and murder someone? Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
There have been a couple cases where it's there's somebody threatening him or threatening to expose him, but it's not until they cross a line that he goes ahead and kills them. And that's what makes him a compelling character, because there have been moments where it's like, oh, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? They haven't done anything bad yet. But he is a really intriguing and compelling serial killer anti-hero, because he has done the list of awful things that he has done should have long ago spiraled him into that villain status. But the fact that he has that code of honor is what keeps him right on that line between good and just absolute evil. Who else do you have on your list?
All right, my next one is James Bond.
James Bond.
Yes, star of books and movies. When I listed James Bond, my wife immediately said, but he's not an anti-hero, he's a hero. I'm like, well, yes, but. James Bond works for the British Secret Service, so all the people that he kills are basically in the line of duty for the British government. But that doesn't stop him from doing a lot of really horrible things, and he doesn't really feel guilty over anything that he's done. Ian Fleming, his creator, once described him as a blunt instrument the British government sends out against people they do not like. Which is a pretty horrible way that his creator thinks of him. Bond essentially has a license to kill, and which means, I assume, that you can murder as many people as you want, never have to fill out paperwork or explain why you killed them.
Yeah, it's freebie. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah, he never has to explain himself. And he kills enormous numbers of people in some of his missions, and always to stop the bad guy and so forth. But it's also clear that he doesn't really feel the kind of emotions one human being should feel. In Tomorrow Never Dies, a woman he cares about is murdered by a hitman, and Bond dutifully hunts him down and pins him to the floor and puts a gun to his head. And the guy says, "I'm just a professional doing my job." And Bond says, "So am I." Pulls the trigger, blows his brains out, right there. When Timothy Dalton was Bond, he made a specialty of being with that ice-cold demeanor. At one point, he's searching somebody's house, and 4 people come into the room. And he looks up, sees them, and walks out, and pulls out his gun and manages to shoot all 4 of them, killing them before leaving the room without even breaking stride. He just walks to the room, bam, 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 face completely expressionless.
Yeah. He's like true neutral. It doesn't really matter. It's just a man doing his job. Or,
you have to be a kind of sociopath to do that. You really have to.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, James Gandolfini, who talked about playing Tony Soprano one time, and someone asked him, how can you play a character who does all those awful things? And he says, well, Tony just shuts down that part of his brain when he has to.
Yeah.
That's what makes him what he is. He doesn't really want to murder people, but if he has to, it's no big deal.
It's compartmentalized.
He compartmentalizes, yeah. So I put James Bond as an anti-hero. He does good, but as a sociopath, it doesn't really count,
Yeah, I never really thought of him as that much of an anti-hero, but now that you've described it, I would say, on that spectrum,
he's famous for murdering people and making bad jokes to their dead bodies, which when Sean Connery does it, it seems kind of cool. But it's time.
But everything Sean Connery does is cool.
Exactly.
He's in his 90s and it's still cool.
Yeah, in the hands of like Roger Moore and other actors, it doesn't quite work that way. There's no question Daniel Craig sees Bond as being a sociopath.
Oh yeah, no, he's just
no question.
cold.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, just cold, deadpan. No, that's a really good one.
Yeah. What do you have?
I have. Let's go literary.
Okay.
I have Jay Gatsby from The Great Gatsby.
Yeah. Interesting choice.
He's not the narrator of that book, but he is kind of seen as the hero. He throws these big parties. He's seen as somebody with a lot of money who has the potential to do a lot of good. He seems like this really wonderful person. He's very charismatic, but really he's selfish. He's manipulative. He tries to break up a marriage.
Yeah.
He can also be exceptionally kind when he wants to be as well. And ultimately, at the end of the novel, sorry if you haven't read The Great Gatsby, when he is framed for something that he didn't actually do, and then he has to pay the consequences for it, I don't know, it just kind of, it makes you sad that he is being punished for something that he didn't do. He's being punished for something that he tried to do to another man's wife.
Yeah. It's bizarre. When I read The Great Gatsby, I was reminded of a drug dealer who becomes a rapper or something.
Yeah.
I can just leave my past behind me. People I kill don't really matter because we only see Gatsby through the eyes of the narrator.
Yeah.
We never know what's going on in Gatsby's head, and we know that he got rich somehow, but we don't know how.
He wound up with the money. Who knows?
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. Have a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, Fitzgerald is very careful to tiptoe around that.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible he has more dead bodies in his past. We just don't know. He is a mysterious figure.
No, all we know about him is what the narrator sees, and that's really just a happy-go-lucky party guy who from Gatsby's perspective, is really just fighting for a lost love.
Yeah, exactly. He sees himself as a tragically romantic hero, but that might not necessarily be true.
Yeah, and that's, once again, that's perception. We talked about that when we were discussing vampires. Villains, most of the time, villains see themselves as doing the right thing. Even though, what they're doing is immoral. With him, he does enough. I think he does enough positive things, and he doesn't really try to force Daisy into anything she doesn't want to do, to the point where I think he qualifies. I think he's in that weird gray area that we've been talking about between good and bad.
And the narrator of the story is completely enamored with him. So
absolutely.
Is he an unreliable narrator?
Yeah. No, well, it's all perspective.
The reason why you can still talk about this in high school, English classes, is that people do interpret the book very different ways. It's a good thing to start topics of discussion.
Yeah. But no, he's definitely a very compelling character, and that's why I put him on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My next character, skipping over Catwoman, is the Doctor from Doctor Who.
Yes.
Now, he's done a lot of tremendous good in his life. There's no question he saved billions, trillions of people from being killed in various alien planets and things like that. And he has made several strong moral choices to do the right thing. But he's also done a lot of things that were extremely questionable.
Oh, and I would say some things that are just borderline selfish, because the Doctor keeps himself so closed off.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, pulling teeth to get anything out of him. You know, a lot of his choices you really have to look at with, you know, through a microscope. It's just we need to analyze them to see if they're good or bad.
He's immortal.
Yeah.
So as much as he cares about his human companions, and many of them he was obviously, you know, deeply in love with, they're still just humans. They'll be dead in a few years, and he'll keep on going. He'll just keep right on going, and he knows that.
Yeah.
And nothing can really ever change that. So he distances himself from people, which makes it very hard for him to connect emotionally in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He hides his true feelings. It changes the subject if someone mentions something he doesn't want to talk about. Christopher Eccleston's Doctor was obviously like shell-shocked from the Time Wars.
Yeah.
It affected his psyche very badly, but he never really opens up and talks about it. Rose never finds out what he really did or what he saw back in the Time War.
No, but you know he's haunted.
He's haunted by it. Yeah, you can see that. And the David Tennant version was getting over that a little bit. He's starting to move on.
He's starting to compensate with humor.
Yeah.
Which is definitely, but also it's a defense tactic, and the way it's written is, you know, just phenomenal.
Well, when the War Doctor who lived through the war sees his replacement doctors from the future, refers to them as the one who forgets and the one who regrets.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful statement. My favorite Doctor in a lot of ways was Sylvester McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to make the Doctor a vaguely like sinister figure in that one. He was extremely manipulative. His companion was Ace, and Ace was a character who had some mysterious thing about her that unfortunately the show was canceled before we ever really found out what it was. But the Doctor was obviously working with her. He was grooming her for something, and we don't know what it was.
Maybe it'll come back later.
Yeah, there's an episode in which she has a fear of clowns, and they actually go to a space circus, so she has to overcome her fear of clowns. She's estranged from her mother, and so he takes her back, and she winds up running into her mother when her mother was her age.
Yeah.
So he's getting her over her family issues with her mother. It's like, this is not a coincidence. All these things that are happening just to improve Ace's life or make Ace more stable. This is also the one in which the Doctor's arch enemy, the Master, who may well wind up on my villain list. And this one, we never really learn exactly why the Master or the Doctor left Gallifrey. Both of them are renegade Time Lords. And with talking to Sylvester McCoy, the Master actually says, that time you and I fought together at the Bredonian Rebellion.
Yeah.
So at one time, he and the Master fought side by side against the Time Lords.
Well, it's just compelling. It's, you know, how you could go through the same thing as someone else, but trauma affects everybody differently.
Exactly.
It's, you know, one person can be striving to make up for the misdeeds of the past, where one person just lets the darkness consume them.
Yeah.
It's, you know, that's the human choice.
Yeah. One of my favorite Doctor Who lines, my favorite lines of any television show, is he has a thing that he uses. Now, previously, as the Tom Baker Doctor, he had decided not to stop the creation of the Daleks. He allowed them to be created so the timeline could go on the way it was supposed to, rather than tampering with everything. But as Sylvester McCoy, the Doctor comes across something he can use to completely wipe out the Dalek race. And he shoots it, you know, to their home planet, and which basically eliminates them as a species, including anyone else who's living on the planet at the time.
Yeah.
And so Ace immediately says, "We did the right thing, Doctor, didn't we?" And he says, "Time will tell, Ace. It always does." And that doesn't send a chill down your spine.
Yeah, no, that's...
Yeah, time will tell.
Time will tell. It always does. Yeah, no, that was a good pick. Definitely a good pick, the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, he does so much good, but at the same time, the horrors he's committed. You know, when he's being taunted by the Master points out how many companions have given their lives to save him.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though he is the one who is, you know, immortal, he's
the one who always walks away, as so many people have died, you know, working with him.
Yeah. And at the end, there's always just the Doctor.
Yeah.
And that is a lonely place to be. And
There's a whole period under David Tennant where an innocent person died every episode for several
yeah.
in a row.
Oh, yeah. And it was just, especially since he was getting over those Time War,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah, that hit him really hard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have another one? Or have we
I
reached the end of our
do
list?
have a
All right.
silly one, but honestly I feel it's very compelling.
All right.
Dr. Horrible from Dr. Horrible Sing-Along
Yes.
Blog, which I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I
have seen it, but it's been a while.
adore it.
Yeah, it's very well done.
So it's the story of somebody who is a villain. They are a self-proclaimed villain, I should
Yeah.
say. A self-proclaimed villain trying to get into the evil league of evil. So, you know, it's a person who has this drive, who wants to be, you know, emperor of the world, who wants to do, you know, these bad things, but really it's because he thinks he genuinely believes that he will do a better job for mankind in a position of power.
Yeah.
He also, you know, fights for love, for the love of Penny,
Yeah.
this girl that he knows from the laundromat.
Yeah.
So it's just, I put this on the list because, you know, he literally wants to take over the world. He genuinely thinks he'll be a good ruler. He's insecure. He's cowardly. These are not the traits of a hero. But
Yeah.
he is fighting for love. He's fighting for what he truly believes, you know, is right. And the villain in this is the self-proclaimed hero, Captain Hammer, who just
Yeah.
really does some awful things.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He's absolutely terrible. Played by Nathan Fillion, which makes him wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's you know, he's constantly undermining Dr. Horrible. You know, he's constantly, you know,
Yeah.
screwing up. Even when the Dr. Horrible is trying to do what's right, trying to save, you know, people.
Yeah.
It's Captain Hammer coming in and kind of just ruining his plans, even if they have positive effects. And then at the end, when he finally does take a life, that's when he crosses that line. That's when
Yeah.
he fully goes into full-on evil mode.
It's a shifting slope.
Yeah, he loses his love. He's taken a life.
Yeah.
That is something that he can never come back from, and that's what makes him a true villain.
Yeah.
Which ironically is what he wanted. So
What he wanted all along.
That's what he wanted
so
all
be careful
along.
what you wish for.
Exactly. Do you have anything else on your list?
That is it, actually.
That is
That's
it?
all of them.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've discussed a lot of anti-heroes
Yeah,
today.
anti-heroes are very cool. A lot of people love them. And we're running out of time anyway, so we
Yeah.
should probably stop
Well, yeah.
before they turn off the lights.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, next time let's talk about
Villains. We'll compare and contrast anti-heroes and villains and come with a list of 5 villains for next time.
Absolutely.
Until then, I have been Ed.
I'm Michaela.
We'll see you next time and be safe.